Greetings once again, folks, as we set about the final session for this piece. I've got something stuck on my shoulder here that has just caught my eye. I don't know what it is. It's stuck to my jersey. Okay, right. Kitties are playing mayhem somewhere. Anyway, let's get to it, shall we? I want to make a couple of adjustments to this. Making strange noises back there. I hope they're not. I just want to make a couple of just refinements to some angles here, and I can do so just with bringing in some pale yellow here. I actually want to, it's not a biggie, I just want to just bring this angle a little bit further in. It doesn't matter that it's already dark because there's shadow and what have you anyway, but I wanted to just bring that angle across a little bit, because I do tend sometimes to take the break between sessions to stand far back and have a re-look and just assess where I'm at and where things need to go, and then sometimes I don't. Sometimes I won't look at it again until the next session, which is all good as well. But today I decided to just make a couple of minor adjustments to the perspective here, really. Hardly noticeable, but to me necessary. So I'm just going to set about that, and it's these kinds of things that I basically need to look at today, is these minor adjustments, these tweaks, finishing touches. All part of the game, part of the story. So oopsie, I just nudged that. Oh, the base of this, my chair has got 5 wheels, legs on the bottom that tend to get, one of them tends to get in the way of where I'm moving from time to time, which is a tad irksome. I'm also going to be using a little bit of white, so I can also use that to, I want to also lighten this this area quite somewhat, not so yellowy, so I want that nice crisp, fresh, kind of chilled, icy appeal, rather than the warm glows of spring and summer. So I can do that by bringing a little bit of white as well. And in any case, I would be doing a lot of this kind of work, just with perhaps a different colour. But as I shall be with the green in due course. Right, let's use my eraser as well. Just get a clean edge on this thing. Hello, little Finn. There's little Finn. Come to give us a greeting, haven't you? Hey? Yes, she is. Have you come to sleep? Hey? Or create havoc? What is it to be? Hey? Here we go. Settle down there. Where's your sister? I'm yearning for some of this lighter yellows. So this is all just really just layering. Charcoal the basis, and then adding layer after layer of colour on top of that with the contrast beneath. Yes, Finn, don't bug me now, please. Rather you didn't. Yeah, with the contrast beneath and then adding the lighter colours on top. Ending with, if necessary, white highlights, etc. But I usually use in this scenario, I don't have any bright whites, so except for the horizon over there of the skyline. But I want to be bright white, so what I use my white and then I blend it in, mix it in with the surrounding colours. And if these adjustments happen to cost me extra time such that I don't complete during the session, well, so be it. There's no absolutely no need to rush a thing like this. Just using my eraser here to do some subtle blending, etc. Right, let's start now working on a little bit more detail and contrast and color in these trees in the background here. Let's use my compressed charcoal. You see, as I mentioned to you before, it's at this stage things start to really slow down, because I'm just paying a little bit more attention to the small stuff wherever necessary. A little bit of charcoal, a little bit of color, a little bit of compressed charcoal here and there. Dark browns, dark reds in the trees along the top of the ridge here, the crest of the rise. Almost indiscernible really, but you can see that there is a line of trees, or whatever going on in the distance. much in silhouette, of course, so quite dark and stark against the horizon line, the near horizon line, that is. I think there's about, I don't know, 6 or 8 kilometers between the top of this near horizon line and iNhlosane and that ridge of hills and mountains in the distance. So not too far. As I mentioned, there it's not a large mountain. It's not very high. It's not like the Drakensberg Mountains, which are perhaps 50, 60 kilometers distant in that direction, but big enough to dominate the region. So just a little bit of detail here. Even then, it's more of a hint of detail than actual detail, if you know what I'm saying. Just forms, shapes. Just something to give perspective and a kind of idea of distance. I'm literally at this point just doodling. Doodles of doodles. Just bringing in a hint of marigold here, which actually immediately blends with the black of the compressed charcoal, and so it's a lot duller and less vibrant than if I was to apply it on its own. Just catching the western edge edges of these trees, etc. Hinting at the lowering sun. Right, let's bring that a little bit more in here. No, let's not use that colour here. Let's bring this one. So, as you know by now, I tend to shy away from absolute detail, from leaving everything or trying to get everything as literal as possible. I rather use technique, shapes, color, etc., shadow, contrast to give the idea of detail. That's my challenge. That's the challenge. That's what I challenge myself with, in fact, is to leave as much to the imagination as possible. And that's, I guess, the point of abstract realism, even though this is leaning towards realism than some of my other pieces. There's no real abstract in this, but it's just, once again, if you take a small section of this, you wouldn't know really what it is. But abstract realism is what I really am enjoying leaning towards. So, breaking away from, or creating as much distance between where I'm at and where I have been, in terms of trying to generate realism. I'm trying to be as accurate as possible in terms of my rendering. So you'll see the scribbles, you'll see the doodling, and that's intentional. Overall, though, if you scrunch your eyes up a little bit, you might see what appears to be almost a photograph. I don't know. I mean, some have said so. I don't sort of really think so, but some have said, they thought at first it was a photograph, but then they're looking at a much smaller image. If you were to stand a few meters away from this piece, you might make that assumption. I don't know. And I guess that is really what I'm aiming for. And it leaves a great deal for the mind or the eye to fill in. And not only that, but because I'm all about expressing feeling, emotion, and whatnot in my works, you also start to tell as an observer, and if not, well, so be it. But as an observer, because you're observing this artwork perhaps more from an expressive point of view, an emotive point of view, something it reminds you of, or whatever it might be. So you're now filling in the rest of what's not in this, and within these four confines. And that's what I want to be. I want to be able to generate an image of of where we're at, the location. And we don't carry a window around with us wherever we go. We actually experience everything. And that's what it's about. So what is not in this image, then the mind makes up the rest of the surrounding landscape. And especially if you are accustomed or you know the area, then it makes a huge, even more of a difference, but on a different level. For those of you who know this area, you'll be able to tell, okay, Midmar Dam is in that direction. Drakensberg Mountains are over in that direction. The hills at the top of the valley, at the back of on the side of the valley are behind me, and all of that. And then you start to go, well, where exactly now? What might this be in terms of, all that sort of thing. That's the rest of the story. That's the language of the artwork coming through, and that's what I really want to generate with my work. Hello, Sage. She's come to say hello as well, hasn't she? There she is. Here's little Sage. Hey, little girl. You go and find. Oh, okay. Go and find Finn and see where you can lie with her. These two are always together, no matter what. So now I want to subtly darken these distant hills, mountain, whatever it is, and I'm using my charcoal. The interesting thing is that the charcoal doesn't take that well over the pastel, so it just very gradually builds, as opposed to making a charcoal mark on the page, which I began with, and that's perfect, because this is a charcoal and chalk pastel artwork. So, and the two work together so nicely. So I just want to create subtle changes in color over here, but nothing too vibrant, nothing too. It's very distant, and distance becomes hazy, so you don't see a great deal of detail. So that's what I want to do. Oopsie, she's up the top. So I just want to darken the mauves and the lilacs and the deep blues that I have here already. Sage, stop it up there. And it also kind of softens it in a way. And also I can create this nice, fairly crisp edge to the horizon line. I hope you sleep up there, Sage. Just yeah, and where I've got these more tilted, angular edges to the eastern faces of these hills, so they're slightly darker and deeper in their blueness. Let me just bring in a little bit of indigo to accentuate that, just slightly. Especially on the eastern faces. Just darkening, just subtly, not too much. They're not in complete silhouette. So it's still quite subtle, and even then I want to use my eraser to work that a little bit. And yet you can just very faintly see a lightening in certain facets. Let's see what other color I can bring in here. I'm just using a kind of a brick red, just to touch on certain edges. Sage, stop digging up there, please. I have to bring you down just now. Carry on. You're just adding a little bit of apparent detail. She's digging underneath things on the top of the wardrobe. Sage, come down from there, please. Yeah, here's me telling cats what to do. Right. Okay. And a little bit of lilac as well, I think. I'm paying more attention to this particular. This is iNhlosane over here, and just paying particular attention to that little detail, because it is kind of the icon of this piece, even though it's, by comparison to everything else, it's quite diminutive, but it does stand out. Sage, come on, baby. Right. That's looking quite good. Let me just, what I want to do now, I just want to get a little brush. In fact, actually no, a bigger brush, but with a kind of, I just want to soften. Sage, you are becoming a pain. And sleep like your sister. Has been into these things 1,000 times, but now seeks to ferret. Now you can see what I mean by time that seems to roll away when I've only got 25 minutes left, which is fine, which is actually plentiful. Not that one. The ground in the far distance just dissolves into into blues and lilacs. So if you were up close here with me, you would see how this subtle appearance of detail makes quite the difference. I'm just really doodling it in. Doodle, doodles, oodles, in its oodles. Yeah. There's a dark lilac. So you can perhaps see now how and why this particular mountain or peak was called the Maiden's Breast. Anyway, maybe I'm spending a little bit too much time on it. Let me just So all of these the tops of these little ridges over here have got very, very rocky, lots of little rocky outcrops and what have you. So they all are now catching the light, but they're so far away we can't see the individual rocks and what have you. And it's in this region, there are also, the rocks are seemingly very red, orangey red. Interestingly, quite about the same kind of red as I found down the south coast a couple of weekends ago at Rocky Bay. Very similar red. There we go. Okay, that's too much. A little bit too much. Let me just take that. I am being pedantic now, but okay, that's enough of that. Yes, that's. I'm quite happy with that. All right, let's just do some nice. Let's work in with my pale blue. Where are you, pale blue? Okay. I thought I had more than the one. Get a new one out. Why is that? Where is that other one gone? Okay, it's done. Right, so let's open up this one. Let's peel a bit of the wrapping off. How are we doing for time? 20 minutes left of this session. Right. Yeah. Now what I want to do is let's get this bottom section done. Let's get done with this. A little bit of lighter, much lighter, brighter green. Just bring in some white. Again, like I said before, just again, it's more about the contrast than it is about highlighting. And the white also kind of blends in with the surrounding colors. Now, and I want to just also now bring it in over here. So I'm just bringing in some white pastel here in very jiggly, wiggly, squiggly lines. Because as I've always maintained, line adds form. Line work is like looking at a topographical map with all the lines that constitute dimension and form, shapes, etc. So line work, the way I like to see it and use it and employ it, is to create a kind of a topography, but also it's my punctuation, if you will. It adds the commas and hyphens and exclamation marks and question marks and full stops. Although there's no full stop in this piece, because I want the energy to be re-engaged with constantly. I know I'm speaking metaphorically, of course, but that's what art is about. That's what everything that we see about is about. It's in language. It has language. We interpret in language. What we see, we then develop a story surrounding what we see. And that applies to everything. That applies to how we live our lives every day. Everything that we see is determined in language. Everything that we experience, how we experience, how we interpret. And that which we don't, depict in language is meaningless, is irrelevant, it ceases to matter. And this is why taking pause to observe means to language what we are seeing, what is passing us by, what might pass us by unnoticed. That's all the stuff that isn't languaged. It doesn't have language, and therefore it has no meaning, and therefore doesn't really exist. So, in a roundabout way, I'm just adding more form to this piece with my white chalk pastel, and I shall do so as well with my, as we've got 12 minutes or so left, I'll do so as well with my black compressed charcoal. So just hinting at the grass here, as it perhaps catches the light. I'm just being very erratic with this right now. Yeah, so the eye kind of almost gets led in around and then out towards iNhlosane, but then perhaps returns because there's something more that might have been missed. There's a little tree over here that might have been missed, and so the eye continuously is involved in this. It's like, you know, with composition, with form, etc., with the story of this piece, it's like telling it. It's like whether you tell a joke starting with a punchline, the rest becomes irrelevant. So if you have an artwork with the subject or the focal point right slap bang in the middle, that's like starting with the punchline. The rest becomes irrelevant. You want to keep on engaging the eye with little nuances, little details, little suggestions and hints of detail. I'm even going to use some of this minty blue. No, I'm not. Where's the color? Oh, that's the one. This is the minty green that I want to use. Sorry. Also, for just subtle line work, hints at reflected grass perhaps. Because it is lush, it is, and being lush, it is reflective. So you have this slight sheen on the blades of grass and what have you. Yeah. We're nearly there. Nearly there. Just need to keep an eye on the time. Of course, I want to use my black. You. Hello, little sage. You back again? So now I have a whole skirtle of different colours in this field, but the overall appearance is this lush green. But in here I have this like a fresh green, bright green. I have two other bright greens. I have the more olive greens, the forest greens. And then into the yellows, like a lemony yellow, and then into the slightly deeper marigolds, and it's all in here. It's all in here. The blues are here, the magenta, at least the I've even got some of the brick reds. The other hues of yellow, all represented here. The lilacs, so actually all the same colors as I would use in a seascape. Dark browns, yeah, everything's here. It's just in a seascape they're used differently. I haven't used any turquoises and things like that, granted, but just to reiterate that there are all colors in everything. There is a full spectrum of color in all that we see. Even in the darkest of spaces, even in the shadows. Where there's the faintest hint of light, there is color, and there is all color. We don't see in selective colors. We see in all colors all of the time. So that's why I try to represent as many of the visual spectrum of color in everything. And it adds form. It adds depth. How are we doing for time? Oh, we've got about 4 minutes left. Just want to finish off with this. It's quite far up the field. You can even see patches of the base paper through these. Right. Okie dokie, folky wokies. Right, so I wanted to just quickly at the end here, and just get this down, drop this down again. Right, I just wanted to work in a little bit more white in this. And I might go a little wee bit over time, but that's okay as well. As I said originally, I thought I might bring in a little bit of cloud. It's not necessary. And even this has the appearance of distant haze and perhaps cloud, etc. What I'm doing here. So absolutely fine. Right, let me use my finger just to blend in a little bit here. Right. And we are done. Right, let me sign off. Great. Colour to sign off with is this brown. Down here. Nice and subtle. Go. Yeah. 2022. Done. There we go, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this little journey so far up to the Midlands of KwaZulu-Natal and up Dargle Valley, in fact. So yeah, yeah. Thank you for joining me so far. To anyone who's happened upon my channel, welcome, and I hope you've enjoyed the process so far. And do hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you get notification of any future uploads. So yes, once again, thank you, and be good, be kind, be gentle, be caring, be loving, etc., etc., and oodles and noodles of toodles. See you again next time. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing as a subject next week, but I'll be doing something, that's for sure. So yes, meantime, have a fantastic remainder of your week and weekend, and catch you again soon, folks. Toodaloo, bye, and don't forget to doodle.